Varian Kull sat quietly in the back of Advanced Quantum Theory, trying not to draw attention to himself. 3 months into his exchange year at Earthside Academy in New Geneva, and he still felt like an outsider. The humans around him chatted and laughed with the casual ease of those who had spent lifetimes together, while he remained an object of curiosity. The lanky, pale-skinned boy from Proxima Centauri who spoke with an odd cadence and struggled with Earth's stronger gravity. Professor Lachesis paced at the front of the amphitheater, her neural interface projecting holographic equations that danced across the air. The Schrödinger-Nakamura coefficient isn't just theoretical anymore, people. The recent breakthrough at Ganymede Station proves what we've suspected for decades. Varian made rapid notes on his tablet, fascinated despite his discomfort. Earth's understanding of quantum mechanics remained primitive compared to Proximan's science, but the humans approached problems with an intuitive creativity his people often lacked. It was why he'd chosen Earth for his cultural immersion year, despite his family's concerns about sending their only son to a developing civilization. A soft chime at his wrist drew his attention. The environmental monitor he always wore was flashing amber, unusual energy signatures detected nearby. Varian frowned. The device was Proximan technology, sensitive enough to detect fluctuations in the quantum field that Earth instruments couldn't register. Across the room, Esri Morrow, the brilliant, sharp-tongued girl with sunset-colored hair who had reluctantly become Varian's lab partner, glanced his way. She raised an eyebrow at his concerned expression. Unlike most humans who found him too strange to befriend, Esri treated him with blunt curiosity, rather than polite distance. The monitor pulsed again, shifting from amber to red. "Professor," Varian called out, standing abruptly. His classmates turned to stare. "I believe we should evacuate immediately." Professor Lachesis blinked in confusion. "Mr. Kull, if you need to leave..." The air shimmered near the lecture hall doors. Varian's heart hammered in his chest as he recognized the distinctive distortion of a trans-dimensional portal. Only one species used that technology. Everyone. "Down!" he shouted, just as the portal stabilized. 3 hulking figures stepped through, 7 feet tall, with iridescent scales and faces like terrestrial mantis shrimp. Krell warriors, feared throughout the sector. Their presence on Earth, a protected developing world, was a violation of a dozen interstellar treaties. Students screamed and scrambled for cover as the Krell raised weapons that resembled crystalline spears. Professor Lachesis stepped forward bravely, hands raised. "This is a classroom," she said firmly. "Whatever you want." The lead Krell fired without hesitation. The energy blast froze mid-air inches from the professor's chest. Students gasped as Varian stood with his hand extended, his skin now glowing with a faint blue luminescence. "Energy. Dampening field," he explained calmly to the shocked humans around him. "Standard Proximan defense mechanism. Activates under duress." The Krell commander chittered something in their native language, and Varian responded in kind, his voice taking on harmonics impossible for human vocal cords. "What are they saying?" Esri whispered, having crawled to his side beneath a desk. Varian's expression darkened. "They're bounty hunters. They've traced a signal here." He met her eyes grimly. "They're looking for someone who isn't human. And they think it's me." The Krell leveled their weapons at the students. The leader spoke again, this time in accented standard. "Surrender the Sylvian insurgent, and we will spare this primitive learning center. Resist, and we will reduce it to atomic particles." "What's a Sylvian?" Esri whispered. "A species from the Deneb system," Varian replied quietly. "Shapeshifters. Natural infiltrators, but I'm not." The Krell fired another blast, this one shattering Varian's defensive field and throwing him backward into the wall. As consciousness faded, he saw students running, heard screams, and noticed something impossible. Esri Morrow's eyes, normally amber-brown, were glowing silver. Varian awoke to chaos. The lecture hall had transformed into a battlefield, overturned. Desks formed makeshift barricades. Holographic projectors sparked with damaged circuits, and terrified students huddled against walls. His head throbbed where it had impacted the reinforced plastic reet, but Proximan physiology recovered quickly from concussive trauma. The three Krell warriors had advanced into the room, their crystalline weapons leaving scorch marks wherever. They fired. Most students had retreated to the upper tiers of the amphitheater, but Professor Lachesis was attempting to reason with the intruders while simultaneously directing the evacuation through the emergency exits. "Where is the Sylvian?" the Krell commander demanded, voice like grinding metal. "Our sensors detected phase-shifting technology consistent with their concealment devices." Varian pulled himself upright, scanning the room for Esri. He spotted her crouched behind the professor's console, her expression no longer frightened but intensely focused. When their eyes met, he saw confirmation of what he'd glimpsed before losing consciousness. Her eyes now shimmered with metallic silver light, completely inhuman. She was the Sylvian. The revelation struck Varian like a physical blow. He'd spent months working alongside her, arguing quantum theories and sharing nutrient bars during late study sessions. How had he never noticed? "The Proximan shields the target," announced one of the Krell soldiers, pointing a sensor device in Varian's direction. "They are collaborating." The commander turned massive compound eyes toward Varian. "Unexpected. The Proximan Directorate and Sylvian Collective are not allies. I'm an exchange student," Varian said carefully, rising to his feet. "I have no political affiliations. These are civilians under protected world status. Your presence here violates the Arcturus Accords. Interstellar law means nothing to bounty hunters," the commander replied dismissively. "The Sylvian resistance fighter has information that certain parties will pay handsomely to obtain." From across the room, Esri caught Varian's attention with subtle hand signals, a combat language he recognized from his required military training at home. She was planning something and needed a distraction. "If you're looking for a Sylvian resistance fighter," Varian announced loudly, stepping forward, "then I must formally invoke Protocol 7 of the Proximan Sylvian Mutual Defense Pact." It was complete fiction. No such treaty existed, but the Krell hesitated just long enough. Esri moved with impossible speed, sliding beneath the nearest warrior's guard and pressing something against its exoskeleton. The creature convulsed as bioelectric feedback surged through its nervous system. "Emergency system overrides," Professor Lachesis shouted, activating her neural interface. The classroom's holographic projectors suddenly blazed to life, creating disorienting patterns specifically designed to confuse compound eyes. The Krell warriors staggered, momentarily blinded. Varian seized the opportunity, activating his personal shield again and rushing toward the nearest group of students. "Follow me, secondary exit." But the Krell recovered quickly. Their commander fired a spreading energy beam that shattered Varian's shield and sent him sprawling across the floor. The bounty hunter advanced, weapon aimed at Varian's head. "You've made your choice, Proximan. Die with the insurgent." A blur of motion interrupted as Esri launched herself at the commander, her form rippling and changing mid-leap. Human features melted away, replaced by quicksilver skin and elongated limbs. Her transformed hand plunged into an access port on the Krell's armor, interfacing directly with its systems. "Sylvians are natural hackers," she explained, her voice now musical and multi-layered. "Your neural armor has 19 security vulnerabilities." The commander's weapon powered down as the armor locked into immobility. The other warriors, recovering from the holographic assault, charged toward them. Varian looked at the students, still trapped in the room, at the advancing Krell and at Esri, revealed now as something far more than the sharp-witted human girl he'd believed her to be. His Proximan military training had been theoretical, never tested in actual combat. Until now. "Everyone behind me," he called out, stepping forward as his skin began to glow with increasing intensity. "And you might want to shield your eyes." The quantum capacitors built into Varian's cellular structure, a genetic enhancement standard, in all Proximans, discharged in a blinding flash of coherent energy. The Krell warriors recoiled, specialized photoreceptors overloaded by the intense burst of light. It wouldn't stop them for long, but it gave the trapped humans precious seconds to regroup. "That was impressive," Esri said, her quicksilver form, solidifying back into her human appearance. Though her eyes remained metallic silver, the charade now unnecessary. "But also your only major offensive capability if my knowledge of Proximan physiology is correct." "It needs 12 minutes to recharge," Varian confirmed, already feeling the depleted sensations spreading through his limbs. "And you? Why is a Sylvian resistance fighter disguised as a human college student? Sanctuary," she replied tersely. "The Earth Education Visa Program has the least stringent biometric screening in the sector. I've been here 3 years. The Krell were recovering, their armored forms adjusting to compensate for the energy burst. The commander remained immobilized by Esri's hack, but the other two advanced cautiously, switching tactics. One produced a device that emitted a high-frequency pulse, an anti-Sylvian measure that disrupted their natural phase-shifting ability. Esri winced, her form momentarily destabilizing before she forced it back into cohesion. "That's problematic." "Professor." Lachesis appeared beside them, impressively composed despite the alien combat unfolding in her classroom. "The university's emergency protocols are designed for earthquakes and terrorist attacks, not extraterrestrial bounty hunters. Security forces are 8 minutes out. We'll be dead in 4, Esri said grimly. The Krell don't leave witnesses to interstellar treaty violations. Varian surveyed the classroom. Most students had escaped through emergency exits, but a dozen remained trapped by the Krell's position. The room's architecture, supposedly inspired by ancient Greek amphitheaters, gave him an idea. "Professor, can your neural interface override the classroom's gravitational stabilizers?" Professor Lachesis blinked. "Technically, yes, but deactivating them would be extremely dangerous. This building simulates Earth-standard gravity for all species. Without the stabilizers—" "I know," Varian interrupted. "Trust me." Understanding dawned in the professor's eyes. She nodded sharply and interfaced with the building's systems. "Esri," Varian continued, "can you still hack their armor?" The Sylvian grimaced. "Not remotely. I need physical contact, and that disruption field makes it painful to maintain my phase shifting. Then we need to bring them down to our level." Varian turned to the remaining students. "Everyone grab something to hold on to. Physics is about to get complicated." Professor Lachesis's eyes went distant as she communicated with the building's AI. "Stabilizers disengaging in 3, 2, 1. The subtle hum that had been omnipresent in the classroom, so constant that it faded into background noise, suddenly ceased. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then gravity fluctuated wildly as competing fields interacted. Varian, born and raised in Proxima Centauri's lower gravity, felt suddenly lighter. The human students experienced minimal change, Earth's natural gravity asserting itself. But the Krell, evolved on a heavy world with nearly twice Earth's gravitational pull, found themselves in sudden, disorienting weightlessness. The warriors flailed, their combat training insufficient for this scenario. One fired its weapon reflexively, the recoil sending it spinning backward into a wall. The anti-Sylvian device tumbled from the other's grasp. Esri moved with newfound freedom, her silver form flowing like liquid mercury as she pushed off from a desk and intercepted the falling device. She crushed it in a transformed hand. "Varian!" she called, tossing him a small object she'd extracted from the immobilized commander's armor. "Their neural network key. Connect it to your monitor." Without questioning, Varian slotted the crystalline chip into his environmental monitor. Its display flickered, then stabilized with new information. A direct tap into the Krell combat network. "They've called for reinforcements," he announced, scanning the data. "A retrieval ship is already in orbit, breaking planetary quarantine protocols." Professor Lachesis rejoined them, helping a disoriented student stay anchored to a desk. "Can we contact Galactic Enforcement? Earth has protected status." "No time," Esri interrupted, "and the Krell have likely jammed all outgoing transmissions. We need to handle this ourselves." The temporary advantage of the gravity shift was already fading as the Krell adjusted their armor's systems. Their movements became more coordinated, and Varian saw the commander beginning to break free of Esri's hack. He glanced down at his monitor, seeing not just the Krell communications, but schematics of their armor systems. An idea formed. Dangerous, potentially suicidal, but possibly their only option. "Esri," he said quietly, "how do you feel about hijacking a retrieval ship?" "Hijacking a Krell retrieval vessel is certifiably insane," Esri hissed, her silver eyes flashing as they huddled behind an overturned quantum demonstration table. "Even if we could somehow neutralize these three, their ship will have automated defenses that activate against unauthorized borders." Varian's fingers danced across his environmental monitor, now linked to the Krell network. "Not if we're authorized. This command key has ship integration protocols." The gravity fluctuations were stabilizing as the Krell warriors adapted. One had magnetized its boots to the floor and was advancing steadily toward the remaining students, weapon raised. Professor Lachesis continued redirecting holographic projectors to create visual barriers, but they provided no physical protection. "We have approximately 90 seconds before they regain full mobility," Varian calculated. "And 4 minutes until their ship enters low atmosphere for extraction. What's your plan?" Esri asked, her form rippling with tension. Varian pointed to his monitor. "Their retrieval protocol requires genetic confirmation from at least one squad member before the ship will land. We need to borrow some Krell DNA." "You want me to get close enough to collect a biological sample from an elite hunter trying to kill me?" Esri's voice conveyed impressive sarcasm despite its alien harmonics. "No," Varian replied. "I need you to disable the remaining warriors while I extract what we need from the commander you've already immobilized." Before Esri could respond, the advancing Krell fired at their cover. The demonstration table's molecular structure destabilized under the energy blast, beginning to disintegrate. "Now or never!" Varian shouted. Esri nodded once, then her human form dissolved completely. In its place stood a creature of liquid metal and flowing energy patterns, a Sylvian's true form, rarely seen by other species. She moved like quicksilver across the floor, reforming behind the first warrior and interfacing directly with its armor joints. Meanwhile, Varian sprinted toward the immobilized commander, dodging energy blasts from the second warrior. His proximan reflexes, evolved for a world with different temporal perception, gave him just enough edge to avoid being hit. He reached the commander and pressed his environmental monitor against the creature's exoskeleton, initiating the DNA extraction protocol he'd discovered in the Krell systems. "This will be unpleasant," he told the paralyzed hunter, whose compound eyes tracked him with murderous intent. The device hummed, extracting biological material through microscopic filaments. Across the room, Esri had successfully disabled one warrior by forcing its armor into lockdown mode, similar to the commander's. But the effort had clearly drained her. Sylvians weren't designed for prolonged combat, their strengths lying in infiltration and technology manipulation. The final Krell warrior recognized the threat she posed and activated a secondary defense, a field that interfered with a Sylvian's cohesion ability. Ezri's form began to destabilize, edges blurring as she struggled to maintain her shape. "Varian," she called, voice distorted. "Hurry!" The DNA extraction completed with a soft chime. Varian pulled the device free and checked the readout. Success. "Now for the hard part, Professor Lachesis," he called. "I need a campus-wide electromagnetic pulse." The professor's eyes widened. "That would disable half the city's electronics. It will also temporarily disrupt the Krell armor systems and give us a fighting chance," Varian countered. "Please!" The professor hesitated only briefly before nodding. Her neural interface glowed as she accessed the university's emergency protocols, overriding safety measures with her faculty authorization. "EMP in 10 seconds, she announced. "Any crucial electronics should be shielded." Varian quickly detached his environmental monitor from its wristband and wrapped it in the specialized Proximan fabric of his inner shirt, a material designed to protect against radiation and electromagnetic interference. He looked up to see the remaining Krell warrior advancing on Ezri, who could barely maintain her form under the disruptive field. 3, 2, 1. Professor Lachesis counted. Down. The pulse rippled outward, invisible but potent. The Krell warrior froze mid-stride as its armor systems crashed. The disruptive field collapsed, allowing Ezri to solidify her form, though she remained in her natural Sylvian state, too exhausted to maintain her human disguise. Varian unwrapped his monitor, relieved to see it still functioning. 3 minutes until their ship enters atmosphere, he announced. "Ezri, can you move?" The Sylvian wavered but steadied herself. "Yes. What's the next step in this suicide mission?" "We let them take us to their ship," Varian said simply, holding up the monitor displaying the extracted Krell DNA signature. "Then we take control." The Krell retrieval ship descended through Earth's atmosphere like a predatory fish, sleek, dangerous, and utterly alien to human sensibilities. Its cloaking technology rendered it invisible to Earth's primitive radar systems, but Varian's enhanced monitor displayed its approach trajectory clearly on the small holographic interface. 2 minutes to touchdown on the university quad, he informed the small group huddled in what remained of the lecture hall. The EMP had bought them time, but the Krell warriors were already showing signs of system recovery as their armor's backup protocols activated. Professor Lachesis had organized the remaining students into the far corner of the room, as far from the Krell as possible. Campus security is evacuating the surrounding buildings, but they're completely unprepared for this situation. "Of course they are," Ezri said, her voice weary. Her Sylvian form had partially solidified, but maintaining cohesion clearly taxed her after the disruptive field exposure. Earth is supposed to be protected. Interstellar law prohibits exactly this kind of incursion. Varian checked his monitor again. The ship's landing protocols require confirmation that the target, you, has been secured. We need to make it look like they've captured us both. Both? Ezri's metallic eyes fixed on him. "This isn't your fight, Proximan." "It became my fight when they attacked my classroom," Varian replied firmly. "Besides, I've learned enough about Earth to know humans have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing." A flicker of what might have been respect crossed Ezri's alien features before she nodded. "So we let them take us aboard, then use the commander's DNA to access their systems." "Precisely," Varian confirmed. "Their ship AI will recognize the commander's genetic signature as authority, even without the commander physically present. But we'll need to move quickly before the warriors report our deception to their central command." The immobilized Krell commander suddenly emitted a series of clicking sounds. its translation device reactivating. "You will not escape justice, Sylvian terrorist. The bounty on your molecular pattern has tripled since the Deneb Collective fell." Esri's form shimmered with emotion. The collective didn't fall. It was systematically destroyed because we refused to share phase shift technology with the military consortium. My terrorism was defending my home against genocide. "Politics are irrelevant to hunters," the commander replied coldly. "Only credits matter." Varian interrupted the exchange. "The ship is beginning its final descent. We need to be ready." He turned to Professor Lachesis. "Get everyone else as far away as possible. What happens next could be destructive." The professor hesitated. "I should contact authorities. Earth authorities can't help with this," Esri said gently. "This is beyond their jurisdiction and capabilities. Please protect your students." After a moment, Professor Lachesis nodded. "Be careful, both of you." She began ushering the remaining students toward the emergency exit. Varian turned to Esri. "Can you still interface with their armor?" The Sylvian extended a quicksilver tendril toward the nearest warrior whose systems were rebooting. "Barely. The EMP damaged my manipulation capabilities, but I can still establish a limited connection." "We need them to believe they've captured us," Varian explained. "Can you create the appearance of restraints?" Esri's form rippled as she concentrated, and thin filaments of what looked like energy cords materialized around her torso. "Holographic projection. It won't fool them up close, but from a distance." Varian nodded and extended his wrists. "Do the same for me." As illusory restraints formed around Varian's limbs, the Krell warriors finally regained mobility. Their armor systems rebooted with aggressive humming sounds, weapons charging. "The ship has landed," Varian announced, checking his monitor. "Authentication protocols are active." The commander stepped forward, its massive form looming over them. "You show unexpected intelligence for primitives, but your deception ends here." "We surrender," Varian said clearly, holding up his apparently bound wrists. "You've won. Take us to your ship." Suspicion radiated from the Krell commander, but the timetable for extraction left little room for interrogation. After a moment's hesitation, it signaled the other warriors to secure them. Rough appendages grabbed Varian's shoulders as they were marched toward the lecture hall's exit. Outside, the campus had been evacuated, leaving an eerie emptiness across the usually bustling university grounds. In the center of the main quadrangle, reality itself seemed to bend and distort around the invisible Krell vessel. As they approached, the ship's cloaking field rippled to reveal a craft unlike anything Earth had ever seen, obsidian surfaces interrupted by pulsing veins of crimson energy, its design both organic and mechanical. A boarding ramp extended silently. "Last chance to back out," Esri murmured to Varian as they were pushed forward. Varian's reply was calm, despite his racing hearts. "In my 3 months on Earth, I've learned that humans have another saying: fortune favors the bold." They stepped onto the ramp together, ascending into the belly of the hunter's ship. The interior of the Krell vessel pulsed with bioluminescent light that cast everything in a sickly, greenish hue. Curving corridors resembled nothing so much as the interior of some massive organism rather than a spacecraft. The 3 Krell warriors marched their captives directly to the bridge, a hemispheric chamber dominated by neural interface ports and viewing screens showing Earth from low orbit. Varian fought to control his racing hearts as he surveyed the ship's systems. His environmental monitor, still disguised as a simple wristband, continued passively collecting data through its connection to the Krell command key. What he saw wasn't encouraging. The vessel had already begun atmospheric exit procedures, its trajectory aimed toward a rendezvous point in the Kuiper Belt, where a larger transport waited. "Secure the prisoners for jump preparation," the commander ordered, moving toward the central neural interface. The Sylvian must remain conscious for genetic verification at the handoff point. The other warriors pushed Varian and Esri into recessed alcoves that immediately generated containment fields, real ones, not the holographic projections Esri had created. The Sylvian's form wavered under the field's pressure, but held its cohesion. "Now what?" she whispered, her metallic eyes fixed on Varian. He subtly adjusted his wrist, allowing the monitor to scan the bridge configuration. "We wait until we're in orbit. Their defense systems will be focused outward during atmospheric exit." The ship shuddered slightly as it accelerated. On the viewing screens, Earth's blue curve became more pronounced as they gained altitude. Warning messages flashed. Earth's space agencies had detected their ascent despite the cloaking technology. "Primitive tracking systems," the commander dismissed. "Engage secondary cloaking harmonics," while the Krell were distracted with evading Earth space monitoring. Varian activated his monitor's transmission sequence. The device sent the captured DNA signature to the ship's authorization protocols, establishing Varian as a secondary commander in the vessel's hierarchy. The acknowledgement came as a subtle vibration against his wrist. "Success." "Approaching orbital insertion," announced one warrior from its neural interface. "Detection grid indicates no pursuit capability from the planetary defense systems." Varian caught Esri's eye and nodded slightly. She understood immediately. Her Sylvian form tensing in preparation. "Computer," Varian said clearly, "recognize secondary command authority. Authorization pattern, Krell Alpha 79. The ship's systems hummed as the genetic signature was processed. The commander whirled around, compound eyes flashing with rage. "Impossible! Override containment protocols, security clearance maximum." Varian continued rapidly, the Krell command language flowing from his lips with perfect pronunciation thanks to his monitor's translation function. The containment fields dissolved. Esri moved with liquid speed, her Sylvian form flowing across the deck plates and interfacing directly with the ship's neural systems before the warriors could react. The vessel shuddered as she seized control of critical functions. "Navigation locked," she announced, her voice harmonizing with the ship's communication systems. "Life support partitioned and secured." The Krell warriors charged toward them, but Varian was ready. "Initiate internal security protocol 47 Beta," he commanded. Secondary containment fields sprang to life, freezing the Krell in place. The commander chittered furiously, mandibles clicking in outrage. "You cannot pilot this vessel," it warned. "The main transport will destroy you when you fail to transmit proper authentication codes." "We don't intend to meet your transport," Varian replied, moving to what appeared to be the main control interface. His monitor projected schematics, showing him where to place his hands. Esri's voice echoed through the ship's systems. "I've accessed their communication array. I can broadcast what they've done here, violating Earth's protected status, attempting to extract political refugees in contravention of galactic treaties." "It," Varian confirmed. "Transmit on all emergency frequencies and set course back to Earth." As Esri worked, Varian turned to face the imprisoned Krell commander. "On Proxima, we believe justice requires understanding. You came to capture someone you called a terrorist without knowing her story or the circumstances that brought her to Earth. That's not justice. It's just business." "Spare me your moral posturing," the commander replied. "The Sylvian resistance destroyed 3 consortium worlds with their phase-shifting weapons. We targeted military installations only," Esri's voice insisted from all around them, "after they obliterated our homeworld. The casualties were regrettable, but—" "Both of you have valid grievances," Varian interrupted. "But Earth is neutral. Territory, protected. What happens elsewhere in the galaxy stays elsewhere." The ship's trajectory had stabilized into a holding pattern in low Earth orbit. On the viewing screens, the blue planet rotated slowly beneath them, clouds swirling across continents in patterns that knew nothing of interstellar conflicts. "Transmission complete," Esri announced. I've contacted the Galactic Enforcement Division with our coordinates and evidence of treaty violations. They're dispatching peacekeepers. Varian nodded, then addressed the commander again. You'll face charges, but you'll also receive a fair hearing, more than you would have given Esri. And what of you, Proximon? The commander asked. Your directorate maintains strict neutrality in the Consortium-Sylvian conflict. Your actions here will have consequences. Varian considered this. His family had sent him to Earth to learn about human culture, not to become entangled in galactic politics. But standing aside when he could have acted felt fundamentally wrong, a violation of both Proximon ethics and the human values he'd come to respect. Some principles transcend political allegiances, he said finally. I choose to stand for what's right, regardless of consequences. The ship's communications array chimed, indicating an incoming transmission. Esri's presence in the system interpreted the signal. Galactic enforcement vessels approaching, she reported. ETA 12 minutes. Varian looked out at Earth below them, beautiful, mostly peaceful, and largely unaware of the conflicts raging among the stars. His exchange year had taken an unexpected turn, but he realized he wouldn't trade this experience for anything. What will you do now? He asked Esri as they waited for the peacekeepers to arrive. Your cover on Earth is compromised. The Sylvians. Form coalesced more fully beside him, silver features resolving into something almost human while retaining her metallic eyes. There are other schools, she said thoughtfully. Other planets. The Resistance needs people who understand diverse cultures and technologies. She paused. What about you? Back to Proxima and a life of scholarly neutrality. Varian watched as the first galactic enforcement vessels appeared on the long-range scanners, their distinctive blue-white engines bright against the darkness of space. I think, he said slowly, my academic focus might have just changed. Earth has a concept called diplomatic immunity that's fascinating. The idea that representatives can move between conflicting powers while protected by mutual agreement. He turned to her. The galaxy needs more diplomats and fewer bounty hunters. That, said Esri, with what might have been a smile on her alien features, sounds like a worthy aspiration for an exchange student who's seen combat erupt in class. Below them, Earth continued its eternal rotation, one small planet on the edge of galactic affairs, yet somehow central to Varian's new understanding of his place in the universe. The enforcement vessels initiated docking procedures as the Krell warriors awaited justice, and two very different students contemplated futures neither had imagined when the day began.